Hi guys. Traditionally speaking, any editing laptop should be really beefy, should have a lot of fans, a lot of goodies packed in a really huge laptop.
Largest gaming laptop ever inside?
But that's traditional speaking. Nowadays, big companies like MSI, HP, Razer, Dell are competing each other to bring out the best performance laptop in the smallest form factor. So they have introduced a new category of laptop known as creator laptops. This is a new thing for us.
Mate, this year it's about the creators. Move over, gamers.
So if you are a person who is doing creative works, maybe like video editing, music production, or even just Photoshop editing, the system that you are working is the holy space for you. And that should really enhance your workflow. So even if there is the new category of creative laptops, people are really confused on how to choose a laptop for theirs. Mainly the issue is everybody is different. For example, the priority of a video editor will be much different from the of a Photoshop guy. Let's be frank here. There is no one, best laptop that can be recommended to all classes of people. The thing is, we have to do a back process. We don't lock a system, then lock the program. We first lock the program, then go into the system which runs the program really smooth. Even if you're going for a Premiere or Photoshop, both will eventually eat your processors. You have to really know what processor you want to go with. Now in the market, there is a lot of buzz between this Intel processors and AMD processors. Personally for me, I am more lenient to Intel processors because according to my research, a lot of programs are tested on Intel processor than in AMD. I'm not saying that AMD is a bad processor. It's a really good processor if you are going for gaming. It's really tuned for gaming. AMD is like a Ubuntu system and a Windows system. You can customize your processor. Intel doesn't give you much customization. So it's really turned to a gaming processor than an editing processor. In Intel, there is a lot of variation. i7, i5, i9. The newest thing in the newest boy in the market is i9. Well, what actually you have to look is the suffixes, because these are categorized according power output and their performance. HX processors are the high performance processors which will drain your battery life.
You want the V8 engine, alright? You gotta feed it fuel.
Most preferably go for the processor which has the most number of cores. What is actually the plus point of having a lot of cores and threads? So the one core will process the one process, while the having multiple cores will enhance the multitasking performance of your system. But you will be wondering, I'm only using one software at a time. Why do you need a multitasking performer? So let me break it down. If you're running software like Premiere, Resolve, or any video editing or Photoshop processor, there are a lot of things that are running behind you have no clue about. Basic thing is like, for example, if you're doing for a video editing, usually Premiere and stuff, actually makes the footage that you see in the timeline or in the screen inside the program is not the real footage that you have already uploaded in the system. It's actually a dummy file that is created by the Premiere software, so that this process of viewing through the video is much more smooth and easy. So this making of a junk file of the original clip and simultaneously locating the junk file from the original clip, everything is a one task. Apart from this task, there is a huge task of displaying the file to you. There is a sound task that program has to run, and there is a lot more color grading. What's the next big thing you have to look? Next big thing is RAM. It's not RAM actually. You have to look at the storage. Storage is the next best thing. Even if you have a Core i9 processor, 32 gigs of RAM and RTX maybe, if you're running on a hard drive, man, you're screwed. Hard drives usually have a transfer speed of 100 to 160 Mbps, while SSD have transfer speed of 360 plus Mbps. So mine's the difference. Like I said, if a Premiere has to work, they have to allocate the storage of the dummy file and they have to copy and play the dummy file. If the transfer of this file is really fast, then the playback in your computer will be really smooth. I'm not only talking about Premiere, Photoshop also does this thing. Another notable point that you have to look into is like when you buy an SSD or an internal storage as your C drive, do buy an SSD as your C drive, not as a partition disk, because even if you install any software in a partition disk or any disk, they will consume your C drive. That's how the software works. What I am trying to warn you is like if you're buying a C drive with 128 GB of a SSD, you're good. One thing you have to remember is that the OS will consume 60% of it, and other basic softwares like MS Office and DLC will consume 30% of it. Now you're stuck with 10% or less. And when you're into like 3-4 months of editing in one system, everything will choke out.
Is your computer C drive space exhausted when you use any of the Adobe software?
So do buy a system which has a decent amount of C drive, and preferably it should be an SSD. Now let's go to the third part, that is the RAM. 16 gigs of RAM is good for any process, but if you are going for a 4K, 8K editing of video, or if you are a professional Photoshop editor dealing with lots of layer in your project, then you should go for 32. It will ease up your process, but 16 is a good number. Next big thing after RAM is the GPU. Many people are saying that like Adobe and many editing software is GPU and CPU enhanced software, but the truth is like it will consume 90 to 99% of your CPU, while it will only consume at most 30% of your GPU. So even if you are in a 1050 Ti or 1060 GTX 1060, you are really good. You don't need an RTX for sure. RTX will give you a better performance, but the numbers are really small for this much price difference. It's not just you get the best system by the books. The system should work. The main thing about any laptop is thermal throttling. You can Google thermal throttling to know better about it. What you have to know in the surface of thermal throttling is that every system works in the optimum temperature. It's like F1 racers warming up their tires before the race.
Oh, they're done.
The temperature should be optimal, not too low and certainly not too high. Every processor has its thermal throttling limit. Usually, laptop processors has a bit more tolerance than desktop processors. So, when they exceed this thermal threshold, the processor automatically cut down the process. So it's an internal thing. It's a Intel. If you're working on Intel, you will get to know one more thing. It is an Intel Smart Control thing. It's an application which is developed by Intel, so you can overclock your system. But the thing is like, even if you do that, thermal throttling will, because it is a code that is written inside the CPU, inside the processor, where if it exceeds this much temperature, to sustain that processor and not break the processor, it will automatically reduce the processing power to save the system, to save that processor. So thermal throttling is a very huge point to deal with. You are actually risking thermal throttling by upgrading to the latest and high-spec GPU, because GPUs like GTX 1080 or RTX are huge contributors of thermal throttling. For a pro tip, the TI versions are the GPU which are really calibrated in such a way that it produces less heat comparing to their bigger siblings. If you're going for a GTX 1060, 1080 or an RTX, thermal throttling will go up the roof, because these systems, these graphic intense systems need a lot of cooling to run in a very effective way. Liquid cooling is another option, but laptops, I don't think there's much laptops in the market with liquid cooling inside. I don't preferably want you to buy an RTX. I don't think if you're going for an editing system, it doesn't matter. If you're going for a gaming as well as editing system, then RTX will be a good choice for you. RTX is a completely different algorithm, and it's not like a GTX, it's mapped completely different. If you want, I'll explain more. Do comment in the below section to explain anything, any section that you want to explain more. then do comment on the comment section. The next thing that any editor or any creative person should look out is the display. That is the thing that you really miss out in every system. So this is the end of part 1 of the video on how to choose your editing or content creative laptop or desktop. You could see that these videos are a bit lengthy because I am really deep diving on the concepts rather than giving you a useless preset or just a random recommendation. So if you want to have a deep knowledge on these subjects, then do subscribe to the channel so that you are updated. So if this video helped you out in any way, then don't forget to press the like button so that I also get a feedback that this kind of content is relevant for you guys, so that in the next video I'll be able to give you out a cleaner content which is really trimmed. So until next video, stay home, stay safe, and peace out.